Good morning, YouTubers. Welcome to Boise Foot Trucking, a channel we're gonna walk around Boise, do some camping, and for me, learn a lot. Here we go. And I have somebody working on some graphics for me. They said they'll be done soon with it. And it looks to me like they're doing a very good job. I'm learning about all this new YouTube stuff, and I'm kind of working on their schedule. And look at what a beautiful day it is. Holy moly. It's going to be, I believe, 93 today. So that means it has cooled down a little bit. And we are going to see some ducks. Holy moly, I walked by there yesterday. There's ducks everywhere. So we got to keep the move on here. And also to expand my channel a little bit soon. I'm kind of hoping to get those graphics up before. But there's a couple of things going on in downtown Boise, which I don't go down there that often, but I think we're going to go to a couple of those festivals and walk around and do Boise foot trucking right there. And before we get to this corner here where things will get a little more exciting, being a truck driver for so many years, I got a couple of stories that might interest you. One of them, let's see, I must have been driving 4 or 5 years by that time, so I was pretty good at it. Anyway, I picked up this load in the LA area, and I was headed like up to Boston or something like that. Anyway, that particular angle. So here I am shooting across Interstate 10, and then once you get up into Texas, there's another freeway that nobody really knows about called Interstate 20. Kind of angles up, kind of bob and weaves, and eventually gets you to Texarkana. Anyway, goes through this area called the Staked Plains. It's just flatter than hell. And I'm driving up the road, and nobody on the road, it's me. I'm going as fast as the truck will go. And then all of a sudden I see a tanker truck about a little more than a mile ahead of me. Here, I'm going to pause this for just 1 second. Okay, yes, I'm shooting across this Interstate 20. Nobody around. Finally, I see this tanker truck in front of me. A couple of miles, I guess, maybe a mile or more. And I'm just kind of staring at this thing for an hour as we're both going 70 miles an hour. And I'm gaining on him a little bit. Then all of a sudden, it looked like the tanker thing was going to roll off. So it got my attention really quick, and I looked at it, and I'm going, holy moly, that tanker is going to fall off. It's unsecure for some reason. So I get closer and closer. You know, takes me a long time to catch up to him because we're going approximately the same speed. Finally, I'm getting closer, and that damn thing is loose. It is flying, and he's got some type of debris flapping all over like tarps or something. So I get closer and closer and closer. Remember, and there's nothing around. We're on Interstate 20. It's as flat as can be. You can't see no mountains, nothing. So finally I'm about a city block away from this tanker truck, and it's flying all over. So now I'm gaining on it, and now I'm less than half a block away, And I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, oh my God, there's stuff flying all over, and that thing's gonna fall off. So I get closer and closer, and I'm thinking I'm gonna alert this guy to tell him his cement tanker's gonna fall off. Anyway, so I get closer and closer, start looking at this thing. It's 115 degrees outside, nice blue sky day. Get close to this tanker truck, I start staring at it a little bit, and it is a semi-truck flatbed with an elephant standing on the back of the flatbed backwards. His feet are chained down, and his trunk is swinging back and forth, and his ears are flopping in the wind. And he's dancing from side to side, just having a good old time. And you know, that was long before cell phones were even thought of. So, and I couldn't get to my camera, but boy, that is one of the stories that will stay in my mind. I thought that was so funny. And so finally, when I got closer, I realized, you know, it must be a circus or zoo or something transporting you know, live animals to a different location. Why else would you have an elephant on the back of your flatbed? Pretty funny. And I was looking at some of the, I don't know, I guess you call it news programs, which I like. I've watched them all my life. And being, I guess, a trucking channel, and being a trucking person, I noticed the news people talking about all this new generation of truck drivers. We're always going to need the human, but you know, the driverless truck, that will probably start doing some of the interstate stuff in the future. But around town, that's going to be still human behind the wheel. Anyway, it looks like this new generation of truck driver is pretty good. I like them. They're walking into a new profession, young age, usually between 20, 25, knowledgeable about the world, knowledgeable about all of the computer stuff you need to know today, deadlines. I think conditions are going to improve a whole bunch for truck drivers. Because when I started truck driving, holy moly, that was like being a cowboy in the West. And I am dead serious. You know, if you stop in a hotel every night and get the luxuries and have a nice breakfast at the hotel restaurant every morning, and you're paying for this all with your own dime, gets pretty expensive really fast. So either you will run out of money shortly, or you'll have to make so much money that you can't even keep any of it. And it's expensive enough rolling down the road. I owned a couple of my own trucks, and as silly as it sounds, God, one of the big problems is a flat tire, because not only do you have the problem of a flat tire, but now it's impossible for you to take that off yourself. You could if you had all the stuff, but that's extra weight, and you don't want that. So you have to call a tire guy and come out, and if you don't have the exact tire that you are carrying that will fit, then you have to buy one from the tire guy, which a new tire or even a used tire, taken off and putting on the side of the road, that'll usually run you about $500-600 a tire. So you only do that once or twice before you start realizing better pay a little closer attention to the tires if it's costing you. You have 2 flat tires or blowouts in a month, you just lost most of your profit, even though you're making a ton of money, everybody thinks, you know. Just because you're making $800 a day, that's all people see. You know, $800 a day, God, I'd work 1 day a month. No, don't work that way. You're making $800 a day. Some days you're not working because there's nothing to haul. So on those days, it equals up to, see, let me add it up again. 0 times 0 equals 0. Yeah, so it's 0 if you don't haul something. So you have 2 or 3 of those days, a couple of $400 or $500 days, which would be kind of low, a couple of $800 days, 2 flat tires at $600 a piece. The downtime involved with that, I mean, it's insanity. That's a come I just had to get out of it. And then when I got rid of my Mayflower truck, I went to work for, I guess you call it a company in those days, the dreaded work. You know, I will never work for a company, trucking company, never. I'm an independent. I want to spend all my money just so I can piss from one county to another. I'm going to spend all the money I ever see on that. But when you go to work for a company, even though most of that equipment is not yours, still I was getting a brand new truck every year, or sometimes a couple of times I had a truck 3 years, but most of the time I had brand new equipment. And so the dollar amount coming your way is way lesser, but in the process of that, because you're working for a company with more than 1,000 employees, you get health care or 401k or some type of equivalent of that, couple of weeks paid vacation, which is not that big of a deal, but on your own dime, you're lucky if you get a weekend off. Don't even be thinking about a vacation. Anyway, in my experience, it just seemed to be better for a person like myself to work for a company. You know, and then they put some of the money away from me because it, you know, involved with the government and all that. Just worked out better. Plus, some of the trucks I drove, all kinds, some of the latest models. But my favorite one, when I was working out of this fairly large company out of Montana, I had this old Kenworth. It was one of their older Kenworth that they were about ready to trade off or sell. That's what those trucking companies do. You know, they're always buying and trading up and keeping up with the latest equipment, you know. Anyway, I had this old Kenworth, and right before I got it, I guess it was pretty beat up. So those harsh winters will get to them. So they sent it into the shop for, I guess, a couple of months, and basically kind of rebuilt everything. And it was like a brand new truck. I believe it had a new front axle on it and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I had that truck about, oh boy, 2.5, 3 years. Old long-nosed Kenworth with an old-fashioned independent sleeper cab on it. long wheelbase. Besides, almost impossible to take a corner with it. It sure was a nice truck to drive. Going across some of those Texas landscapes, or the eastern end of Montana and that flat country, Nebraska. Man, that thing's like flying an airplane with that long wheelbase, especially if you have a load on it. Just kind of floats over the ground. And then when you get into the cities, go ahead. When you get into the cities, it gets a little tougher. When I used to go down to Detroit, Chicago, New York, Boston with the 48-footer, sometimes a 53-footer. Anyway, to take some of those old-fashioned corners in the old-fashioned parts of town, because that's usually where the cold storages are, where the buildings kind of start getting abandoned 80, 100 years ago. These old rock, beautiful buildings, and somehow they mostly became cold storage, and really keeps in the cold, you know, with a blast freeze and all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, all that different equipment that I drove, if I stayed an independent, I could have never afforded all of that stuff. Plus, it would have costed a fortune being one person. The companies I used to work for, most of the time they would buy 3 at a time. Like buy 3 Kenworth and trade in 3 Kenworth. And then trade in 3 Freightliners and pick up 3 brand new Freightliners. And I got a brand new Freightliner one time, and that was a pretty nice truck. That was, at the time, that was probably the nicest truck I'd ever driven. And that had I guess, God, I believe those were called a setback axle. It was a newer thing. Now they're probably all that way, but in those days, it was called a setback axle. And the reason it was set back is because the leaf springs and some of the other stuff were longer. The front end, the front axle thing was shorter or shallower, and with all that combination, you could move the tires side to side at a bigger caliber. Like with the Kenworth, which had the standard leaf springs on it, you could turn the front wheels about, if you could get to 15 degrees, you were doing good. So someplace tight, like in the old part of downtown Boise or any major city, when you're done there and you're trying to leave town, some of these corners you gotta go to, cut it way too wide, and then with your long axle Kenworth, for instance, then you'd back up a hair, go straight, because now until you get it a 45, and then you can turn the corner a little bit easier with only running over a little bit of the curve. I used to go in this place in downtown Portland. You're supposed to get there real early, like at 3 or 4 in the morning, which I usually did. At one time I got there and it was later, rush hour had been started. So I had to wait for people to stop the traffic and all of that. And I noticed, hey, I've been coming here off and on for like 5 years. And every time I come here, that one aluminum telephone pole right there. Oh, look at the babies crossing the road. Yeah, I noticed that aluminum telephone pole there, that's as big as a regular telephone pole and as wide as one. Every time I go there, it's brand new. Go, what the heck? How come you guys keep on replacing your telephone pole every time I come here? And somebody knocks out. This is in downtown Portland now. You'd have to cut really more than a 45, more than a jackknife to get into this location. But at 2 or 3 in the morning, it's a little bit easier. There's only trucks in your way, and they're more than willing to back out. Look at all these ducks. Holy moly. Yeah, waiting truck drivers, they're more than happy to get out and keep an eye on the right side or the left side for you. So that's always good. But with a big Kenworth like I had, oh my God. It was kind of funny because people would, just say, okay, just go up here and turn around this building here, and then you can just pull right over here. There ain't no possible way this truck is turning that corner with the trailer. So I'd have to drop it, and then they'd get their little shorty yard truck and have somebody put it where they need it, and then I'd rehook up to it, because there's no way I was gonna take that corner unless I was gonna back out all the way. Oh, look at the babies. Look at the baby. Sorry, Mommy. I'm gonna keep on going. I just wanted to say good morning to your babies, that's all. Whoa. Look how precious it is. I know, I'm leaving them alone, Mommy. I'm leaving them alone. See? Okay, I'm on my way. Anyway, any of your new drivers that are still attending school, you can do whatever you'd like, but I would recommend going to work for a large company. You might have to, be told what to do, which you might not like, but I think it's just a better deal for the average Joe, especially if you have a family and children. And you can always use, if you have children, you can always use a 2-week vacation on the house. That's always welcome. And then if something happened to you, like you got the flu or twisted an ankle and you couldn't work for a couple of days, then you qualify for sick leave and take 3 or 4 days off. Combine that with a weekend, and you got 5 or 6 days to enjoy yourself and try to recover. If you're an independent, you either have to pay somebody out of your own pocket, or you just lose that revenue. And if you pay somebody out of your own pocket, you're losing that revenue anyway, if you're an independent. And if you don't, you have a strong possibility of losing that customer. Say, well, if I can't rely on, XYZ trucking to be here when I tell them, then we're going to have to move to somebody who is more reliable. And you don't want that either. So if you work for a company like I did, I worked for a couple of them, you can call in and say, hey, I'm pretty sick, can't make it today, and they'll arrange someone to take your shift, take your route, possibly even take your truck. And then when that happens to somebody else, you might have to work an extra day to cover for a sick person. And since I've rode both sides of the fence, I like that side better. I did know some people in my truck driving days that just refused to work for a company. That was just bad news any way, shape, or form. And I tried to see it that way. And I don't know. It just seems to me, unless you are independently wealthy, That's hard to do. I just think the company route is going to happen. I mean, it's going to take over, and it probably should. Oh, I can give you a little example. As trucks were modernizing, I don't know, 20 years ago, up until a few years ago, still modernizing. Anyway, they came up with that DEF thing, which is some type of an exhaust deal to keep the air on our planet cleaner, which is okay with me also. Anyway, over 10 years of their operating that and getting it into operation, now every diesel has that, even the pickups. And if you are a truck driver who worked really hard to buy a truck and keep it running, buy another truck, keep it running, and do that for, you know, a good portion of your life, now your old-fashioned trucks can't even go into a government facility like, say, the Port of Seattle, the Port of Long Beach, the Portland's port. You can't go into any of those, and because of your exhaust emissions, you don't have the correct exhaust emissions. So now you got a couple independent farmer type people that live out in the boonies, and they got 6 or 7 trucks that they've bought and paid for over the years, and they can only haul, smaller private loads, because the governmental loads have those, new restrictions, brighter headlights, a DEF system on your diesel to capture bad diesel fumes or whatever in the heck. Anyway, so an independent, that's hard to do. A company or a fleet style company, they go, oh man, that's a bummer. I hate all these goddamn regulations. But they just go down to Freightliner, sit down with one of their big executive sales guys, and go, look it, I bought these trucks from you, and I can't get into the ports starting next year. So I want trucks that are caught up all the way to modern standards, and I want 2 of those a month for the next 4 years. And that's how things work nowadays. And independent, you can't do that. And a lot of them are even turned into leasing. And if you lease them, you kind of, depending on what game you want to play, but if you are leasing your truck, then you also have to play the major tax game, which, if you're an independent, means you have to hire an accountant, somebody that's knowledgeable about the trucking rules and all of that. If you work for a company like I did, you walk upstairs and knock on somebody's door and say, hey, yoo-hoo, hey, I think my tabs and registration are going to be up here in about 30 days. Can you got somebody on it? Say, oh yeah, we'll have it. We'll have the package for you in 2 days. You bring in your registration package and we'll have a new one. And the way those work is when you got your registration package from that company, it's in a sealed envelope. And the only way, a sealed plastic envelope, and the only way you can open it, or the only reason you should open it, is if you, say, got pulled into a scale, or they stopped you at a scale, you'd have to open that up, show them your registration, insurance card, all that stuff, and then if everything turns out okay, then you go back to your company, tell them you had to open that at such and such a scale, and they'll look it up and see that you were there and make a new packet for you. Or if you were in an accident, also in that packet is whatever you call it, an accident report kit and a small camera, so you can get whatever action needs to be done in case of an accident, which had a couple of small run over fences and a few things like that. Nothing big, but I think the Elon Musks of the world will be taking over. I know Elon Musk, his new big deal is one eye on transportation. I saw one of his deals on some channel on TV about his new Tesla electric semi-truck, which exists, but it's not for sale, and it's not in public operation. I guess it's somewhere in Texas. He's got like I don't know, like a 20 square mile practice ranch or something like that, where they test all these equipments. But that day's coming too, and that day will be a truck driver instead of me. When I started, I had to learn about shifting gears, the difference between a 10 speed, a 9 speed, a 13 speed, an 18 speed, all of that stuff. How to jump over to a Mac, and it's got different kind of air sliders on it to release your rear end and axle and transmissions all in proper sync. That's kind of a funny picture I'll show you here in a little bit. Looks like 2 gear shifts on a truck. That was in the days when instead of the air slide on your gear shift, it was a manual shifting lever. So if you're going down the road and kind of raising your speed as you should, gradually let off the gas, move the right lever over to the next position, change your gears, double clutch in between, and do that. It's great, and it'll be really smooth. Now, same truck going up a 12% grade on a crappy dirt road with potholes in it, and you got a full load and the weather's crappy, and you're flying up this road hitting it about 30 because that's the fastest you can go because of the conditions. And then as you're going up and it's time to start shifting down, that's when the fun begins. Holy moly, boy. I've seen people wrap their arms around the far one, shift with their shift the other gear shift with your forearm, kind of throwing it together as you're throwing your body, closer to the steering wheel, so you can throw the rear end shifter back and push the regular transmission shifter forward. And going up hills with heavy loads, you come up with some ingenious ideas on how to shift. Holy moly, it was... I learned to... after I learned how to drive, I drove one of those for about a year. I thought it was fun. I liked it. It kept your mind off of other crap, because having to worry about that, your worry box was full. You didn't have time to worry about other stupid things, because if something happens and everything slows down too fast, the trailer you're carrying does have the possibility of coming right through that back of that sleeper, and that's about 60,000 pounds. And usually when that happens, it usually turns really ugly really quick. So don't do that. Anyway, anyone about ready to graduate from school, I say look into those big trucking companies. They'll, whatever trucks start to change, I think they're going to change a whole bunch, even if they do keep some of the diesel stuff around, which I'm sure they will. They're going to have to. That's good technology. You know, they say the horse and buggy disappeared. I don't know. Did it? We went to a festival a couple of weeks ago. There was a whole bunch of horse and buggies, and they look pretty nice. So they're still around. The diesel 6-cylinder gigantic piston engine will always be around. They'll figure out something with it in the future here, because it's my experience with a 4 1/4 Caterpillar. Truck drivers call it a 4 1/4 cat. I believe equal for equal. That is the best engine ever built. 4 1/4 Caterpillar engine, at least for what it's doing. You know, it's hauling super heavy loads that can be transported on the highway system, mingling with regular traffic, and it gets large amounts of goods to different locations effectively. You can haul more in a rocket and get it there faster, but the delivery system, as it skids up 4th Avenue sideways at Mach 15, turns out to be not the best solution. Got to figure out something. We're still pretty early, no bees yet. I guess I'm gonna have to come back one day around noon so I can say hi to the bees. Wow, look at the waterway today. Yeah, the thing about the 4 1/4 cat, there's other uses that I would never use them for, but for the uses that I would use them for, and I had a Kenworth with a 15 speed in it, 3 gears in reverse. Wow, you get into really, really bad, high mountain situations. Oh, look at the babies. Oh, sorry, mommy. Sorry. You drop that thing in low, and lock all your gears in, lock your axles in, go on 8 to 10 miles an hour with a super heavy load. That thing can go anywhere, and I mean anywhere. I used to have to go to this place in Texas, I believe it was off Interstate 10 on the eastern side, but I really didn't have an address. This was my directions from my trucking company, was to go up Interstate 10 into Texas along shooting there where it's just wide open. There's nothing around there, and said keep my CB on, and when I get to mile marker, whatever it is on the freeway, start talking on my CB and asking for whatever that was, R&R Ranch or whatever. And so that's what I start doing, and there is no marked roads or addresses out in that part of Texas. And somebody finally gets on the CB and responds to me, asks me if that's what trucking company, if I have a load number, which I did, all of that crap. And I go, well, how do I get there? And so I pulled off to the side of the road, and it goes, oh, you don't have instructions? I said, no, my instructions were to call approximately around this location. I said, okay. I says, well, see that light way up there on the mountain? Go, yeah, I see that. I said, that's about 5 miles, about 4.5 miles away up this windy road that you could drive a car up or a pickup. But I said, with your semi-truck, you got to go off to the side road, and then you have to back all the way up. I said, you are kidding me. Nope, that's how they do it. And then you can back directly into the barn and get loaded for whatever we were picking up. It's easier on them, and it's just easier when you get a lot of trucks going on. So that was, actually, I was a pretty good backer by then. But at that time, that was the furthest I ever backed, 5 miles. And you're just backing up through this long prairie. It was starting to get night. I'm having to pull forward a few times. And then over the years, I picked up there several times until finally I got pretty good at it. And I might need a little bit of a brush-up course, but I would say I am one of the best backers in the world. As when I started, I had a hard time learning everything, just like everything else, because I'm a hard learner type person. I don't know why, but I just am. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Hold on one second. Yeah, so there's one time I went to New York. It was probably, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th time I'd been to New York. You get there about 1 in the morning, go down Broadway all the way to 15th, take a right on 15th to this place, this meat company that is huge in New York. One of those old buildings. Anyway, so I get down there. It takes me an hour to get from the George Washington Bridge to 15th. Traffic everywhere. Up the yin-yang. New York's crazy. Anyway, so I finally get to the place that I'm going. There's trucks parked this way and that way, and there's cars all over, and there's people trying to drive by. It's insane. It's insanity. It's kind of right, I guess, right on the border of Greenwich Village, where I would go there, and Canal Street. Anyway, so I'm trying to back in there, and these guys are getting frustrated with me. They said, God damn it, try it. I'm trying again. They go, turn this way, turn that way. I'm going, oh my God, I'm just overwhelmed. And they go, wait, if you're going to take this damn long, can the next person come in? And I went, oh, thank God, thank God. So I pulled up out of the way, and then I walked back there until the next person, they only had a partial load, and they were going to unload and get on their way, and then I was going to back in. Anyway, so this truck pulls in, pulls on the wrong side of the sidewalk, jumps on that side of the sidewalk, completely turns 90 degrees there, then 45, and back and forth, and jumps a sidewalk on the other side. This little girl, about 5'1", soaking wet, jumps out of the truck, squats down, looks back underneath the trailer 3 or 4 times, looks on the other side, goes in, jumps back in the
seat, pulls forward, you know, and right in perfect. And then you have to 45, where I was loading there in New York, when you're parked, you have to be at a 45 so traffic can get by. Anyway, this girl did it in like probably a total maybe 5 to 10 seconds. And I just went, okay, that's it. That's what I'm doing from now on. Hell with all this, try to stay on the road crap. Just get to where you're going, start jumping curves. Line that trailer doors up with your loading dock and get in there. Just be in control of what you're doing. If you're jumping curves, nobody's gonna bother you if it looks like you know what you're doing. Anyway, that was my first day of becoming an excellent backer. And then for several years I ran what you call a goat at a trucking company, and that will get you some backing experience. Oh, here's our little jump and jog and through the woods, across the forest, through the espresso stand. Oh, work here at the taco stand and into the taco stand. Oh my God, we got right into the sun. We always beat that popsicle stand. Next time I go there, I guess I'm going to have two, because I keep on walking by and not participating in this guy's business. I'd like to, but he ain't open at 5:30 in the morning. My guess is he's just getting home from partying, of course. Yeah, trucking was fun. I always kind of looked at it as the era that I grew up in, which was towards the tail end of the Vietnam War. They quit drafting kids as they were getting out of high school because the war was coming to an end. So I never went into the military. I wouldn't minded it. I probably would have liked it, but I didn't. And then a few years later, when I had the chance to be a over-the-road trucker, boy, I jumped at it. Kind of like somebody's paying you to go on vacation. It was that way for the first few years. The companies I worked for in those days were all mostly East Coast and West Coast runners. You'd shoot through the Midwest. We didn't pick much up in the Midwest. A little bit on the eastern side of the Midwest, but most of that was either picked up on the eastern seaboard or picked up around California and taken wherever it goes to. Anyway, so we would run back and forth all the time. I really saw the country. The first 3 years was really fun. Having all that fun equipment. Had a cab over for a while. Besides figuring out a new way to get in and out of your house every day, because you have to climb straight up like a tree house. That was a very good truck. Freightliner. I don't believe they make those models anymore, but I believe that model was called a SQ or something like that, which meant a Super Queen. And then some of them had a higher cab and would have bunk beds in there. And so that model would be called whatever number it is, and then a B, which meant bunk, which is kind of cool. I had one of those for a while too. And the bunk, even though I didn't use it myself, I always operated it as a bookshelf and clothes, and a place to put your clothes. You can fold stuff up there, whatever stuff you need. You know, mostly maps and stuff like that. A nice shelf like that was really good. And I only had that truck for less than a year. And then after that truck, this new style of truck that was coming out way back when, they were kind of called anteaters, I guess, but This new company was by far not a new company, but they had a new front man, I guess. Anyway, they were called Volvo White, and they had this one style of truck called a condo. And first time I got one of those, oh my God, I was like living in an RV. It had TVs and I believe 2 closets, and it had a space for either a refrigerator or one of those plug-in coolers, and had little cubby drawers all over. As a truck driver living on the road, the more cubby holes you got, the better everything works for maps and gloves and boots and rough clothes, because you don't want to wear your good clothes that you're going to go into an office and see about your next load. You don't want to wear crappy clothes that you're going to be at some talc mine in Montana somewhere, and 6 inches of mud with the wind blowing, which I had that too. So a couple of those, and you learn to carry boots only for that situation. I have a pair of boots at home that I've had for probably 40 years. I bet you they still have some of that mud on it from that particular talc mine. Most of the time it was dry and hard, even with a little bit of snow. But I think the worst time is late spring, when the ice melts and that ice isn't mixed with the gravel anymore. Now it's mushy, mucky mud with a percentage of talc mixed with it. That's not the greatest combination for traction, let me tell you. Anyway, so if you're going to be over the road like I was, you need a few different setups of clothing. And then, of course, say you're coming from, I don't know, say Des Moines, Iowa, headed for LA, and going through the Midwest, all you're going to do is just get out once or twice a day and walk to a rest area bathroom, or maybe a truck stop, and the food counter at a truck stop, or one of them little delis. So you're dressed in what I would call a little less than office casual. You don't have to dress like a bum doing that. But if you're going to go loading hay, like I did outside of Las Vegas, you might want to have your crappiest clothes you got on. So that's part of the battle there. Once I got that all squared away, a few years into my trucking excursion, just made things better. Especially with a big truck, like one of those condos. Boy, that was fun. And it was a very good looking truck. And it was very strong. As far as operational and functional and easy to operate, easy to live in, that was probably the best truck I ever had. But my Kenworth, that was my favorite. The old school, about a 12-foot nose on that thing. Driving down a freeway, you could lose cars in the front nose of that thing. I'm serious. But you get used to that. Even though it didn't steer very good, it didn't have a very good turning radius, because it had the old-fashioned springs on it, which I explained before. The setback axles, there was a bigger turning radius. And in the process of that, because you set back the axle, that means your wheelbase is a little bit shorter, which will help you get around some of those tough corners. There we go, nice day. So one day next week we're gonna go down to a festival in Boise. And well, next week is 4th of July, so it'll be probably the week after that. And we might do a couple of mornings in downtown Boise, watch the city wake up. But I sure would like to wait for my new graphics, which I hope are coming soon. They're basic, but gives it a, I don't know, a little flair. I've been watching my YouTube coaches get this company that is coaching me, and it's pretty good. Makes a lot of sense. Reminds me of these seminars I used to go to when I was in my 20s. You'd go to these seminars and they would break you up in different groups. You remember, this is seminars where, you know, 8,000 people show up over 3 days, and they would break you up in different pieces so you could learn, you know, whatever they were teaching then. And you know, it's easier. Kind of reminds me of those days. You know, here, look at this graph. Follow this, follow that. Even though it seems stupid right now, follow this method. Follow this method. When things start falling apart, going wrong, follow that method. And then after you get that top of the triangle, then go to number 2. When that doesn't work right, try it again. When that doesn't work right, try it again. And after you get that right, holy. Then after you get that right, then try to get step 1 and 2 in unison. Kind of might have to make a few tweaks, like either get up earlier, get up later, add this, start later, whatever. And then kind of, you don't have to figure it out 100%, but get an idea of how it works, and then go to step 3. And then supposedly, by the way, I'm on step 1. Step 3, kind of go back and forth and play with that. Supposedly step 3 takes 30 to 90 days if you work on it hard. If you work on it hard and consistently, it takes 30 to 90 days to get step 3 going. Once you get step 3 going, then kind of get step 1, step 2, step 3. You can mix them, match them, turn them around, shuffle them around, but respecting each one as it is. And in the process of that, that will make your videos, your talking points, your subject matter, your viewer relations, which I hope you guys like me, by the way. Some will, some won't. I'm used to it. Anyway, that's what I am doing. So we are, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks into this. So I know the steps, and I still watch those every night, those how-to videos. But I'd like to do it right. So at this point, I am still on step 1, which is practicing my subject matter, which is walking and hiking, and learning how to operate my equipment, which I am still pretty rough on that, as you can see, and I'm getting better at it. And then mixing those together, still on step 1. Step 2, I believe, will start after I get those graphics up, because I'll have a more organized target zone, you could say. That's what they say on the how-tos. Anyway, so that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for being with me, and I hope you liked a couple of my trucking stories. We'll see you next time around.